Well, welcome to Snow Bowl 2017. So on this side, representing Old Man Winter,
that would be
Mr.
me.
Barry Snowbank Burbank. And on this side, the prosecuting polar vortex attorney, Mr. Eric Fisher. Gentlemen, let's have a clean fight. No hits below the belt. Barry,
yes, sir.
Let's begin.
I think this is going to be a big winter because based on a lot of facts, but the first one being the cold November. And it almost always works. If you have a cold November, you're going to get more than average snowfall. So we flipped the switch from a very beginning of the month when it was very, very warm, and now it's very cold. Looks like it'll go in the month with the mean temperature below average, based upon what we're seeing for the next couple of weeks.
All right.
So there you go. It's going to be a snowy year.
If we look at warm falls as a season, and they typically do tend to cool off into November, it's only happened once on record over 100 years that we've had above average snowfall in Boston with a top 10 warmest fall, which we're going to have this year. We're still at #1, even after all this cold. So if we look at the season, my biggest concern here is that we need to get it going in December. If it doesn't get snowing in December, what say you that we could make up for lost time in the second half of the season?
Well, you know what? I think March is actually going to be not that great.
Really?
I think for you, for me, it's going to be great. I'm wish casting here a little bit. But I think we're going to have a continuation of the wintry pattern right on through the end of the winter.
Give me some real geek talk here, boys.
Right.
I want some indices. I want some initials. You know, bring on the geek.
I give you the QBO.
Okay.
Quasi-biennial oscillation.
Okay.
And what that's all about is the wind over the equatorial Pacific, over the equator, and it's in the stratosphere. So if the wind is coming from a certain direction, it goes through a certain period. So it goes easterly or westerly. It's basically like a zonal wind. And you go back all through the data, and you find out that when it's an easterly QBO, it favors cold, nasty winters with lots of high latitude blocking. So this year we are in the easterly QBO. Last year we were in a westerly QBO, which was just the reverse. And what happened last winter?
That's true. Well, we got about nothing. Well, a couple good storms, but it was very warm for us. Here's my bigger concern going into the winter. We're starting off with a very stable polar vortex, and it's strengthening. And that's basically a corral of strong winds that's very high up in the atmosphere. And as long as that continues to not be perturbed and it doesn't break down a little bit, it can couple with the troposphere, so more where the jet stream is living. And you end up with a core of very cold air across the Arctic and across Canada and likely the northern tier states, but you don't get these big undulations around. So that takes a lot of coastal storm threat away from us. So we might end up seeing a lot of tracks that come through us, some mixed events, some ice events, some clippers, but not really those 2 or 3 big storms that can really contribute to what would be a major season for us.
Barry, how do we get those storms, those snowstorms, down into Boston and into southern New England?
Well, first of all, how do you know that that polar vortex is not going to be perturbed?
We don't.
We don't know.
We know it's starting off that way, and if it can get itself to a good state and protective state, maybe it'll fend off something down the road to weaken it, these sudden stratospheric warming events or something of the like.
That's what I'm expecting, an SSW.
Okay.
Oh.
No, we had them last winter as well with a very warm winter. It just happened that the cold ended up being shunted off to different parts of the world and not North America.
And not here. So that, I know. I can see that.
Care to raise them in NAO?
I'm still going for, a lot of this argues for an NAO, which is negative with a North Atlantic oscillation. Going into the negative phase favors blocking, so that's how we would get more of our storms instead of being inside runners. And I'm not saying we won't have any inside runners.
Right.
Because La Nina, which this is a La Nina year, favors variability. So we may have some inside runners, but at the same time, if the blocking becomes strong enough, which I think it will be, it's going to force some of the storms to come toward the Great Lakes and then redevelop down to the coast, and there where we have our snowstorms or potential ice storms.
Right, and for that reason, I do agree that I think that our northern New England, interior New England, have a great winter. I mean, there'll be cold there, there'll be storms that will have enough cold to work with to produce a lot of snowfall. The one more indice I want to add on top of the pile is the PDO, the Pacific Decadal Oscillation, which...
You would have to bring that one up.
Well,
come on.
When we had the
I hope people forget
winter,
about this one.
When we had the huge winter a few years ago, it was very positive, and it's why we came out with an outlook that really hit home the cold and the snow, and it's negative now. And usually our least snowy winters, our warmest winters, tend to be in this negative PDO state. Not all of them, but many of them. And so if we had that really strong PDO to couple with this, like we had in 95, 96, I'm on board. Without it, I'm leaning more to that 2007, 2008, where it's a solid winter, but it's front-loaded, it backs off in the second half, and it's not a major winter, it's just a good one for us.
What about the position of all these warm and cool pools in the oceans?
Very similar to 2007, 2008.
True. However, we're seeing a big a warming trend taking place in the North Pacific. Mm-hmm. And so, therefore, with that warm pool of water, warmer than average water.
South of Alaska.
South of Alaska, south of the Aleutians, plus also we've got another parcel of warm water off of Baja. Mm-hmm. Plus
that is different than 2007, 2008, that warm parcel there.
That's right. And the cool water associated with La Nina in the equatorial Pacific, eastern Pacific bias. Mm-hmm. All those analog years show that we have, robust winters with those positions of those pools. So because it's getting warm in the North Pacific, you got to think that maybe we're going to have more ridging developing out there eventually, like what happened in 2013.
Mm-hmm. It's certainly possible. So the takeaway from this conversation, I think, is that it's going to be a nice quiet winter in the southeastern states.
Absolutely.
It's going to be warm there. If you want to really get into the warmth, it's going to be the South Plains and the Southwest. It's going to be cold in the Northwest. It's going to be cold in Western Canada, and we really have no idea what's going to happen.
I think the one thing we can agree on. The one thing we can agree on is that it's a complicated winter forecast.
Very complicated.
Much more complicated than the last few years, and I don't think either of us or any of us would be surprised if we got,
This might be the year that we have a huge bust.
We could have a huge bust on either side. So
one storm could make you or break me.
Exactly.
Or make me and break you.
Game on for the next few months, sir.
Good job. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for watching.